right now and one on deck. The books are the Catholic Demonologist Handbook along with the Workbook and Study Guide, and the Christian Demonologist Handbook along with the Workbook and Study Guide, and that's for all denominations. Well, we also have the Haunting Self-Help Guidebook.
Any and all of these books are going to help direct you to not just the natural causes, prevention, prayers to assist you, to keep you and your family protected.
Yes, real solutions done by real people in the field. And we're sharing our knowledge and information to help you help yourself, or help a friend or a client if you're in the field yourself. You can buy the books direct and get them personally signed. The real deals are on the air now. And now, live from the Swords of St. Michael Studios, it's The Real Deals, Kenneth and Farah's Deel. Hey, everybody. We are back for another episode, Sunday night, live on YouTube and the LNM radio network.
Yes.
Broadcasting stream on the .com of that network. So you look great tonight, Farah. Hardly see each other anymore. It's like it's a big house or something. I should have changed the reef. I actually have a blue one. But this show is going to be a part 2. Deb Johnson's along with us. Are you in the audience somewhere, Deb?
Yeah, I'm here, Ken.
Deb might be in the chat room. And I'm in the LNM network. It's hard for me to watch chat.
You're in the Mork from Ork position.
Exactly. Part 2 of the cases that we planned on going over and with detail, and you'll find that interesting, especially for the person who's studying this work that we do. You know, investigations all the way through to the deliverance exorcisms and all that sort of thing. We've done it all. But I have not been a priest, so I didn't do full exorcisms or anything like that. Let's start with our St. Michael prayer. And you want to do it in Latin?
Sure, honey.
Okay.
Let's go. In nomine Dei Patri, et Filio, et Spiritus Sanctus, sicuret, et principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. Sanctum Michael Arcangele, defende nos in prelio, contra nequitia meritidiis, diobli est presidium. Imperiti Deo, supplicis de peccarum tuque, princeps militia celestis et animaliosque spiritus malignos, qui ad perditionem animarum pervegantur in mundo divina virtute in infernum detrude. Amen.
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 Hello, Athena, Carolyn, Brandon. I'm trying to read all the names I wrote down. Awakening, Spa Diva, Tony, and all you people out there hiding in the ethers that I can't see you, but I know you're out there. Please give us a like, thumbs up, basically, so that our video will go to the top of the list. Sit back, grab your brownies, turn your nightlight on, and if you're taking notes, grab a pencil and paper. And welcome, Santo. Hello, Zuma. Hi, Brandon. Good to see everybody. Second Sunday of Advent. On our way to Christmas. Yeah.
Well, here's our little makeshift list. Just like last week, we still left it up. We had some checked off, maybe one there. Yeah, that's a one. And the couple other ones aren't checked off at all. So that's to be thorough. So we'll try to update it during the show, of course. But welcome one and all. And we will get started. And as long as Deb is up for it. And I forgot my water, so I hope I don't end up getting a frog in my throat or something.
It's okay if you do. We'll just poke you a good one.
Yeah, I'll have to let you take.
Hello,
hey, it's really hard
Deb.
to do when you're by yourself.
Deb. Are you there?
Yeah.
Deb.
Oh, did that happen again?
Did you knock Deb out of the chat?
No, she's there. She can't hear me now that the show started. Deb, you were there a minute ago.
Yeah.
You got to pop in.
I was just saying I had to unmute you because Eunice started barking. Farah, you look fantastic in red tonight. Your hair is great.
Yeah. All right. What's one we finished the last one? I think we were talking about the possession case with the that was this violent one. So I guess pick one out. I hate doing this kind of stuff and looking at it. I just did some topic video, And I spent way too much time looking at my own list, and all the things on it are out of order. And this doesn't work very well, so I'll be doing a lot of clipping out and that kind of thing. Okay, so let's see here.
No, Ken, you remind me of my brother Alan.
Yeah, good old Al. Al used to co-host the Demonology Today radio show for you listeners out there back 2007 and 8, and Deb took over. She was a third wheel then, and then she became a main co-host.
Still a third wheel.
It's your humility, Deb. You know how that is.
Deb, just be for real, okay? Just be for real. You don't want to be one of the main 4. You like being the 5th, so you can jump off any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always get a priest to be our 4th wheel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we are. Speaking of which, we're going to have Father Bob Bailey, who was known from
Christmas broadcast.
Yeah, and we got some topics we're going to throw out there, like the history of Krampus. No, it's like
no, we're going to talk about the history of Krampus.
I love having Father Bob on.
Oh, yo.
Is he related to Spring-Heeled Jack? Stay tuned. No, that's what some of the people would like to hear, but we don't want to spoil Christmas for the happy and cheerful stuff, especially when a lot of people don't have a lot of happy. They got holiday blues and all that, but okay, see, Love Curse we didn't talk about last week. That was the story of Lee and his wife, and it was on a haunting, whatever the episode was called, is Love Curse, but we don't know the number, the season. I can't remember because I don't really watch that show. Besides, we don't get that feed. You know, we watch whatever I don't want to promote the channel that we watch or something, because sometimes they make me angry. All right, so the Love Curse is this one where the gentleman, he begins, and you have to remember, because the backstory thing is the one that's sketchy, is because it was his life, wasn't ours. We're just the investigators and the deliverance team. But he had a girlfriend. I don't know if it was a fiancé at some point, and I think she, wanted to break up with him, and she didn't know how to get rid of him, so she talked her girlfriend into putting some spell on him to get him to break off, and had to get something of his, and so she got a T-shirt, I think, and they did some sort of ritual, and did it work? I don't even remember. I guess it did, because he's married to somebody else, but how drastic and dramatic.
That was pretty sad.
No. And let's see, and then of course there's always side effects, because demonic spirits, when called for that, nothing's never enough. It's like, what, just breaking him up? Come on, let me kill him, please, let me kill him. I'll put some poison in his food, you won't even know it, and you won't be implicated. That's what kind of weasels you're dealing with when you're calling them up in witchcraft. And don't believe that Keys of Solomon stuff. So at some point he had this dream, this nightmare. Remember, Farah? It was something like there was some creature in his dream, some demonic being, and then he finally got it. He was basically battling it in a dream, and he said it was very lucid and vivid. And then when he got it out the door, he held the door open, and it ran a sword through the door, went right through his stomach. And then he woke up. We've had people tell us about some sort of like sharp stabbing pain prior to an oppression. Haven't we, Farah? Like some of the ones that are actually on the list, I think, entailed that as the beginning sign. Something besides a dream, anyway, because the dream can vary. But this one just ends up going to a pretty deep side and a deep end.
Well, if you want to tag the timeline, since we're going into depth, Deb, and you can identify with some of these stages, especially if you are attempting to interfere in any form of the demonic stage, where we're talking about temptation, vexation, oppression to possession. Any one of those stages you interfere, you're going to put a big old target symbol right on your forehead, on your back, and everybody that knows you, including your pets and everybody that lives in your home. So to go
You're
back,
absolutely right about that, Farah. You are absolutely right.
And people don't understand. Let's just say, you and I really aren't into deliverance, but we walk into somebody's home that's got this sort of curse, and we say, oh, well, you know what, we're going to pray with you, and we're going to, pray for the intercession of the saints for you. We may be stepping onto a battlefield that we have no idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Because,
and we could bring home attachments.
And that's what people don't
time.
understand. And this is why Ken and I tell people, always use backdoor prayer. Never go in front of somebody's face and start any sort of prayer if you don't have any idea what's going on with him. When you hold somebody's hands and say, okay, I'm going to pray with you, and you step back and you say some generic prayers like the Our Father, or let's say you do a St. Michael chaplet, or you do, like, let's say you do a Divine Mercy chaplet. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about directly using your will and interfering in somebody else's legal right that they've given some evil woman, person, place, thing, entity. And you're not aware of it. You don't have to be aware of it. So be very, very, very careful. What had happened...
You go in there acting like, well, I know my prayers, so I can just go in there and I can take control. No, you can't do that.
And that's our point, is that we had at least 3 other people attempt to intervene in this gentleman's case, that one of them is still suffering some really bad effects. But I think that was probably due to multiple level interference in other cases that they're just not spiritually, shall we say, equipped to handle. And when we mean spiritually equipped, is that Satan can't kick Satan out of his own house. If you're holding hands with his minions, any of his generals, and running around, you're not going to tell Satan, sorry, but you can't play with this person, or I'm going to pray this off a person, because then the minions that Satan's in charge of is going to create some havoc in your life to put you back in your place. Generals don't take back talk.
Sure. That's why I get contacted all the time. People think that because of what I've experienced, that I can contribute to their cases. No, that's why I refer people to you.
Excellent point, Deb.
I will not be involved in helping someone else in their demonic cases. I will spiritually pray.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just earnestly, I will pray for them. And I will go to church for them and light candles for them. And I'll light candles at home and pray for them as well. But I cannot go and do that because of what I've been through and what I've experienced. Because that would only come back and open the doors to me. It's like, well, I'm going to come back and get you again because I didn't get you the first time.
You're so right, Deb, and I don't think people understand that. That
no,
if you know someone like Deb...
I won't even go on ghost hunting trips. Or, it's like I pick up spirits very easy. I see them, I feel them, I can see them in all different shapes and forms, but I refuse to do that because that's not what I want to do in my life.
No, and I think that the more people know, the better equipped you are not to step into a situation like that. That's why Deb is sharing her experience and we're sharing our experience, that you don't make the mistake of thinking that, you know what, I'm going to pray whatever's on you off you. We don't naturally possess that authority. We possess the authority over ourselves, not another person. So as we step into this case, we always start with, where's the point of origin? In the body. And in the body that we were understanding he was having issues and difficulties with, there was indications that there was something on the property. So we had walked the property, and this is how it took us a while to figure out that this curse had occurred before his current relationship. What had happened with his body and the property was a direct result of him not knowing how to deal with what had already happened, inviting somebody in that had come in and used crystal wands to drive spirits out and basically cast them into a mirror in the home. They used sage, which if you're not familiar with sage is a wonderful spice, and I use it in a lot of cooking. For a Christian or for a universalist believer to use sage, it's an invitation for spirits that may not be so nice to come home and play with you. Because sage is basically a Native American custom to use, to burn, to basically keep spirits happy. So you're not
and
really...
that's what I've always thought it to be, was for Native American.
It is.
For the, they
and
burn
I
the
would
sage
never, I would never tell a shaman, oh, you shouldn't use You're sage. Yeah. That is you.
No,
that is your faith. That is your religion.
That to them.
For me to help somebody, I would tell that person, no, you're not allowed to use that. If you would like my help, I have to go with what I know is going to work for you.
Okay, let me just throw a question at you, Farah. Mm-hmm. What do you think of a person who's a Catholic, who goes to church every Sunday, who is also a gifted psychic on TV, and always burns sage to cleanse their home and area before they do a reading?
All right, you want me to tell you what I think about that?
Yes, tell me, please.
Number one, if you are practicing what Deb just said that you're doing, I would tell you that enjoy the money, enjoy the fame, enjoy all the voices in your head, because it won't last, and SHI poop is going to hit the fan sooner than you know. Because
and
when
you know
these...
what, Sarah? You are spot on, because I was referring, and I don't care who knows it or not, but I'm going to say it, Teresa Caputo.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the psychic who's on
Long
TV
Island.
and does all the celebrities and does everybody else on the road, on the streets, or who comes to her home. Exactly what I said. She burns sage, she does this, that, and everything. She had a wonderful marriage, and she had her children there, everything. Well, now she has filed for divorce from her husband. Now she still lives in Long Island. Her husband lives out in California.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still good friends. But you see, all that money and all that glory that she had,
yes,
it's like the demonic has conquered and divided her family.
I agree.
That's the price.
Okay, this is how I see it as.
Oh, no, that's the reality. It's not how you see that. That's real, sweetie. That is very real. And if, we never know when our chips are going to be called in. One of the investigators in this case we're talking about, very, very, the health went down the tube, family went down the tube, had to take a break, got back into it. And sad to say, I never like to see anybody hit like this. I don't enjoy this. I don't relish the fact that, these people are suffering because they think this is the delusion of the demonic. You believe that you have this wonderful gift and you're hearing all this fabulous information and you're doing it from your heart and you want to help people and you're hearing, oh yes, this person's going to get a new car and this person. Do you have a brother with the name of the letter R?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. God's prophets don't ask questions. God's prophets, if they're listening to an angel, if they're a mystic of the church, they're telling you right now, here and now, stop what you're doing, get rid of what you've got. They're not going to mince questions like, well, do you get up at 6 in the morning and make oatmeal? They're not going to ask you questions. They're going to tell you exactly what's going on, okay? I'm not saying that psychics don't exist. What I'm saying is, though, there's a problem with the spiritual world right now. The veil is torn wide open. And there's a lot of chatter out there. And before you get involved in the conversation, get involved with God first. Get right with God.
And also, I want to throw out there a psychic. And I know that Teresa Caputo is a good psychic.
Yes.
But she is charging. She has a television show. She comes in. She gets paid from the TV show. Okay, that's her job for the TV show.
Yes.
But she does do readings without people paying her. She sees people up the streets and she just says, "Oh, Spirit tells me to tell you this and that." But even that's kind of, that's okay because she didn't charge them. Now, Teresa Caputo goes to church every Sunday.
At least on TV.
But you are not. But if you are given this God-given talent as a psychic, you are not supposed to charge for it. Not even in a TV show.
No. Nor are you supposed to take credit for it and say, Spirit, You don't. I'm sorry. Well, anyway, we got to get back to the case. So let's get back to the case, guys. Let me just draw the lines here. We'll do that topic
entirely another show.
Yeah, because that's a really good one. We should do a whole show on this because, there are psychics with gifts that, God is trying to help other people through them, but it's misunderstood. The church calls them mystics. Yeah. So I don't want you guys to think, well, we're hard on psychics or we don't like psychics or anything. This has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with discernment, okay, and a relationship. So next, let's follow the timeline that we're talking about for this one love curse case. This happened over a period of what, about a decade and a half, about 12, 15 years, Ken?
I think it was 18 when he had that first relationship. So
so probably
maybe 10 years at the
almost
most.
10 years. So in this timeline that we're looking at, this wasn't very long for this to affect him. He married a beautiful woman, and at the time we met him, she was pregnant. This was the scariest thing for us because, when you have this sort of infestation in your house and we step onto your property and we see there's something really wrong and we need to get the heart of the matter, we're showing you how to bless your property. B, we're showing you how to put the St. Benedict medals around your property. C, we're showing you how to take your authority back. You take control. You claim the blood of Christ, and you claim your own property every single morning and night. Once you're infected, let me tell you, you stop taking your anti-demonics, you stop praying, you stop doing what's necessary every day in your life. What happens when you stop your antibiotics early? You get infected again. Stop doing your antidemonics, and that's what happens. Sadly, in this case, we had a counterweight, because the person that thought that they helped them by binding a spirit to the mirror came back and decided that what we did was not good enough, and they needed to correct it. So here again, we have casting spells, we have more sage, we have more hoodoo voodoo crap. Excuse me, Lord, for saying the CRA poop word. But that's what it is. I mean, everybody has a faith system. Which one is gonna get you to eternal grins?
So since day one, that mixing faith is lethal, like a match in a can of gasoline. You could say both sides are jealous. You heard, I'm a jealous God or whatever, but he's the God of gods, and he wants his former siblings, who ran away from home and separated themselves to run the show as though they're the God. But it never mixed, so if you respect the spectrum of all faiths and belief systems, you don't mix any of them. And sage is a mix, by the way, and it goes all the way back to the Roman times. So only the pagans celebrated. The Jews didn't. Don't say the Kabbalah. We're not talking about. We're talking about God, Abraham,
Jews. We're not talking about Jewish mysticism or any of that stuff.
Yeah, and Christians haven't either. And Crowley and others did. Well, they loved that stuff, and voodoo and all that. So, and if once you tried frankincense and myrrh exorcised and blessed by a priest, an exorcist, bishop, whatever, of the Roman Catholic Church, you're going to see a tremendous difference in how it cleanses the house. Even if everything else isn't in check, it'll make it quieter than the sage did, which tries to make some sort of illusion of peace or deliverance. But anyway, back to
the case. So we had to deal with the monkey thing going back and forth. Okay, so then when they realized the mistake that they let this person in their house again, and they started seeing shadows, they started experiencing things on the property, things that were really scaring the hell out of them. We had to come back. They had to do renouncing prayers for so many nights in a row, and if they missed them, start them all over again, just like the anti-demonics and the antibiotics. It's the same thing. So we got that going on. Take as prescribed. Sadly, this did not take long to manifest into something very, very, very deep. He was very, shall we say, diligent about the prayers. Yeah, and that's a good thing. I know that was the thing. We needed to work with her, got her baptized because she was carrying a baby, and that was a struggle. We were really worried about the health and welfare of the child, because at this stage in the game, the end game is to divide and conquer. I mean, that's the chaos. So there was marital tension, there was strife, there was people trying to pull at them, and this was kind of like an ongoing thing, even though they loved each other dearly. Mm-hmm. And I think the big thing that happened was that they got kind of complacent, and they thought everything was going okay. And then Ken, tell him what happened. Tell him what his wife woke up to. Remember that?
Not that detail. The wife woke up to something, because I can't remember in the timeline where that was.
That was after.
Oh, okay. You mean
just before
I was thinking
remember?
like some activity. Okay. Well,
no,
we had gone over there a
second.
We gone over there a second time, and that was after the woman brought something back in, and when they come back, they come in worse. So then we did the whole yard and everything completely. Anyway, what happened was and this happened prior to this. Let's go back just a hair from that moment you're talking about. Was that the person in question who came over and waved sage and all that stuff? Not only did she bring something in, she had something with her. She went to the baby shower uninvited.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you guys are not going to believe this. This is freaky. Okay? Because, all right, it's one thing when you have somebody like you guys that are listening and you're believers. Deb, you've seen stuff. When you see something really freaky, it doesn't so much freak you out. You're just like, okay, I better go say some prayers. I better go deal with this. You know, I'm going to slap some myself. When you have somebody that is mildly faithful, doesn't believe any of this supernatural, preternatural, paranormal, doesn't even believe it, and they see what Ken's about to tell you, that changes your your universe is rocked. So tell him what she sat during the shower and saw. His mom.
Yes, of course, the mother was there. That's Lee's mother.
The mother of the boy.
Yeah. And
the mother-in-law to the daughter that's pregnant is invited to the shower.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was wandering around at the party, and
the person that saged the home and crystalled the home was not invited and came anyway.
Right. And she bumped into, more or less, the person. What do they call her in the show? I forgot. Lydia or something like that. I forgot.
Something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the villain. Well, one of the villains anyway. And she said that I was standing about 2 feet from her, and her eyes were black as coal. And we see that sometimes with people who are oppressed, possessed mainly, because at that moment they're not only oppressed, they're checked out. The pupils, changed, and now their eyes look like shark eyes. Well, anyway, this really disturbed her. Farah, we actually heard about this in the hospital, which we get to in a little bit first, I think.
We did not hear until everybody was desperate. We did not even hear about this, folks, till after the worst of the worst had happened. This is a really bad one.
And this is definitely one of the reasons why the mother decided to call us at some point, and the point we get to when the hospital ends up coming in the picture. It was one more thing. It said, this is a spiritual matter.
This is a spiritual matter. So, yeah, we have a witness that's a mother. Okay, and this is when you're doing investigations. Usually there's one person that's afflicted and nobody will testify. And you're like, okay, where's the evidence? We don't do pictures, all right? Because as Deb knows, as everybody knows, spirits mess with electronics, so you cannot trust pictures. So the mother has this horrible event that we're going to tell you about here in a minute. Horrible event happened at the baby shower. Can't figure out what's going on. And then what was it? About a week or two after that she found him.
Might have been a week.
Maybe a week. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she talked to him.
I remember that case.
You remember? Wasn't it horrible? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he. Somehow she got a hold of him. I think she came to the door and he wouldn't let her in. She wanted to get in again. And he said there's something off about her on that visit more than all the others. And then she called him at work. And, I don't know, she's like doing this thing. I must warn you, there's some spirit in your house, when it's in her. And what happened was he drove home from work, and he was working, I don't know what his hours were. It sounds like he came home late because he went to bed. Yeah. He took a shower, and he didn't say anything to his wife. He got into bed without putting his jammies on, which he said was unusual. Yes, and then he went to sleep. And then here comes the early hours of the morning. He's not in bed, so she gets up and looks for him, and he's laying on the floor in the living room with foam coming out of his mouth, and he's unconscious. He's not responsive.
I mean, we're talking a pile of foam out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a pregnant woman, and you find your husband like this.
Any day, too.
This was absolutely a shock. There's no reason. We're talking absolutely healthy, no problems, no issues, nothing. And you know what? I've only got 8 likes, 8 thumbs up. You guys want us to keep talking? How about I get a few more likes? Either that. What's that Italian expression? I can't say it on the radio.
That's amore.
I want some likes, people. Stick your thumb on the little thing and give us some likes. And I want you to subscribe and come back to L&M Network.
You help us to pay our bills, as they always say on these.
That's right. It does. So
it's your way of donating to us.
It's like, so she sees him, and she's got to call the paramedics. The paramedics, they realize everything in his body, his lungs, everything is just like slowly shutting down. They can't figure out why. So they got him on oxygen right away. He's in intensive care. We get a text from the wife saying, please say some prayers for my hubby. And I'm like, what happened? She said, she found him. He's got foam falling out of his face. He's never been sick before. Nothing's ever like this has happened. She's going to call the family. And I said, listen, we need to get over there right away. And she's like, no, right now it's just the family. And we're like, okay. So Ken and I prayed about it. And we're like, it's okay. We'll let it go. 2 or 3 days later, I think it was the second or the third day, we hear from her again. He has been put in a coma because he's responding to nothing. Nothing, okay?
They
have tested his blood. They have tested his spinal fluid. They have stuck him from here to Minnesota and back to Hawaii, and there's nothing coming out. Nothing. There's no reason why he should be like this. Zip, zero, nothing. Medical science cannot. And we're like, okay, this is the third day. I'm like, well, you know what? We're here. If you need us, we'll go to the hospital. Call the Catholic priest there. They'll come over there. They'll help you out. She's like, no, let me talk to the mom, and let me talk, because by now family was coming from Arkansas all over, 4 corners. Everybody was coming to the hospital. This is like the evening of day 3. They realized something was seriously wrong. Okay, that was day 3.
And he was in his early 20s, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, it was just a puppy.
20.
I think he was like 24 or 25, yeah.
Fun.
So that was day 3, all right? So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't hear from her. We're texting her, and she says he's still in a coma. 6, 7. And I'm like, Ken, this is really not right. We got to get a hold of him. We hear from his mother, day 7. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. Please pray for my son. Well, if you need us, you call us. All right? She said they woke him up. They put him back in a coma. They can't figure out anything wrong with him. And I don't know if my son's going to make it. That was day 7.
I want to tell you what happened real quick, if you can keep your flow, and I'll get back to you. Is that whenever I talked to him after his ordeal, and when I heard about him waking up from the coma and they put him back under, she'll tell the some of the reasons why they did that. He was in a panic. And when I heard that, I remembered other cases in thinking about him. I asked him, I said, do you remember waking up? He said, yes, I do. I said, did you have dreams that you were being held captive, like by a demonic spirit and that kind of thing? He said, yeah, I was panicking. Like they did this to him, what was in there. In other words, like he was in some sort of strange stranglehold. And so he had a tube in his throat and all that stuff so he could breathe. Yeah. So that part was even demonic. But we kind of suspected to begin with because infestation, oppression, all the elements were there. The occult, the black magic.
And he couldn't respond because his body was taken over.
Exactly.
And then the medical team took over. So he's got 2 people working against him right there.
Yeah, he said that the doctor relayed to us, through the family, said that they thought he had poisoned blood. They thought he was poisoned, and everything came up negative.
That's what they thought.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this quick because we don't only have a little bit more time. Okay, that was day 7. 8, 9, 10. We had texted We had called, and they said, we're waiting to hear something. We're waiting to hear something. The doctors think that they're going to try something different. Day 10, please come down here. My son is going to die. If he comes out of this, he might be paralyzed. He might be on dialysis the rest of his life. He may never walk again. We don't know. Please come.
His kidneys
They called you when he was on his deathbed.
Exactly. Yeah. This was the last minute. So Ken and I were getting our holy candles, our holy water, St. Benedict. We're trying to fast. We're praying. We go get, the confession. We would get adoration hours. We're like, okay, God, what are we going to do? The guy's dying. There's nothing we can do.
His kidneys and liver are offline.
Nothing we
Basically,
can do.
they shut off.
He's on machines right now.
Yeah.
We got to the hospital, and they had just taken his wife, had just gone into delivery. They had taken her. She had started delivery. She didn't even know that he was not going to live. She did not know that there was probably not a chance that he would ever wake up.
While she was in labor, she didn't even know the condition of her
husband.
They
refused to tell her in case it would endanger the baby. That's how bad it was. He was in a section. Now, I visit a lot of dying people. I visit a lot of hospitals. I have prayed with a lot of people. I've been on cancer wards. He was in a part of the hospital for people that were not expected to make it. We had to completely gown head to toe, face masks, everything. And when the attendants found out, and there was no, I think we called and we checked, and there was no Catholic priest on that day, and we didn't have time. There was no time. We got the family together. We met with the mother. We went in there. We talked to the attendant, and the attendant said, "Do whatever you need to do. I'll be right here."
Except for frankincense and myrrh.
Yeah, we couldn't do the frankincense and myrrh.
But that'd be obvious. We would have thought of that,
When we got in there, I can tell you that there was something so black on this man. If you have ever put your foot in a pile of mud and you can't lift it out, if you were that shoe, that's what he looked like. He was covered with black, and he was just on, I mean, every single hole, he was just tied up to tubes, and he just had the faintest heartbeat. It was like beep, 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 this faint beat. Ken and I get there, and we've got the medals. He said, we could tape the medals to the bed because, we couldn't place them on him, because if at any time he went to cardiac arrest, at any time he decided to check out, they'd have to bring the crash carts in and have to do everything to him. So we began the Litany of the Saints, and we began to beg the saints for, just please intervene. Please help. We can't do anything. We're powerless. We're just praying for him. We had no idea what was going to happen. We just knew that he had a mother that believed, that knew something was wrong. And see, at this time, we still did not even know what happened. We didn't find out until we left that room what happened. She said, please, please help my son. She didn't care what we did. She didn't know who we were. She's like, please help my son. How long did it take us there, Ken? About 20, 30 minutes with all the prayers we read?
Yeah, I gave a list to the TV show, and they just put St. Michael in there or something like that. But, whatever they had to do. It was pretty accurate, I guess, for the most part. Of course, it was actually worse, but at the end, there was no things blowing around or no kind of paranormal kind of stuff going on like, they want to show in movies. But, that's okay.
The only paranormal stuff was my throat that was constricted. The feeling of being underwater in the room because it was so foul with that man being held down. And all we could do was pray and ask for the blood of Christ.
If you have been through that while you were praying for him, you were going through discernment, so you were going through exactly what he was going through.
It's probably like an empathy.
Exactly. He was oppressed at that time, very oppressed. I agree. And when we talked to him later, he basically felt the same you're right, I was going through an empathy with him as I was praying.
what he was going through, so you felt it.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And then,
And
you know,
the reason why you felt that is because you were praying for him.
yes.
And it was going through you, and it was working through him and you at the same time.
If that's how God chose to do it, that's what we were there for, to try.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why his mother called you two back again. Because his mother believed.
His mother believed.
I don't know. She never called us the first time. That was the only time she called.
Yeah, that was the only time she called. Yeah. We called her.
You're confusing.
We actually called his wife and actually got her number, and we called because she said, the family's here. I don't want to make that decision. It's up to them. And the mother said, we're just going to pray and we're just going to hope he's okay. We don't need anything right now. We called her the first time. She called us the second time. Like I said, this is 10 days after he's been in the hospital and nothing. So, okay,
we
guys,
did have
this is not like the TV. This is not like anything they show or anything like that. Go ahead, Ken.
I did have the chaplain come in before we got there.
Oh, that's right.
I think the day before, and
because
he didn't know what prayers to say, and he said the hospital chaplain.
Yeah.
And he said the prayers. When we got there, we had our little paper suits on, or whatever you call it. We lit 2 less candles, and some of the traditional stuff that you do, deliverances that are more Catholic or Orthodox, whatever. And we did the blessing of Saint Maurice. That's a companion of Saint Benedict, and you can use the Saint Benedict medal if it's properly blessed.
Yes.
And I put one on his forehead, and if they come in, I'll just take it off real quick so don't tell the hospital. and right now we have
exercised medals in the old rite.
We have, that's right, and we had a Benedictine priest do. They say it's better, just like when the Mary medal, the oval one called a miraculous medal, is done by what we call Marian priests. Those are ones that have the special consecration and devotion to Jesus' mother. They're the ones better to do that. And we did breaking curses prayers specifically aiming at him, and deliverance prayers that I did. And let's see, what else was there? Litany, like Farah said, just to add to that, so that it wasn't just a prayer of St. Michael or something, and wind was blowing. Unfortunately, a lot of those, nothing really happens like that. I don't know. Maybe they already vacate sometimes before people get there. I don't know, but
this is not the movie. This is not TV. This is not. I'm not an apostle of Christ. Ken's not an apostle. We're servants, okay? So we do what we can, and we remove all our garments. We tell the mom, that was the coolest thing. That's right. I forgot to tell you. Yeah. After we finished, I had placed my hand on his hand, and it was just so warm. His mom was waiting in the hall, to come in, because they only let so many people in. At this stage of the game, he's almost gone. And I felt his little tiny pinky, just move a little bit. And I'm like, oh, God, please, God, do what you need to do. We got to go. We got to pray some more. And I told his mother, I said, I think his pinky moved, but it might have been my imagination. So please continue your prayers. So then his mom looks in at him, kisses him, and she says, I want to talk to you. This is when the bomb dropped. So we go out in the hall. She said, Caitlin has gone into labor. Nobody's told her anything. When I was sitting at my daughter-in-law's, this is a beautiful event. They have the cake, they have everything. This is a celebration of life. The whole baby shower thing.
Mm-hmm.
The woman that goes in there and is putting spirits in mirrors comes over and sits across from her. And she didn't even know who this was. She had no idea that this was that person that supposedly helped her son.
Just another detail about the baby shower, folks.
And that's why I said baby shower. And we didn't find out about it till after we had done all these prayers. So she talks to us, and at that time we were meeting all the family and everything else. She says, I never believed in any of this stuff until I looked across the table and I saw her eyes look at me with the color of her eyes, which is a hazel green, and then all of a sudden the whole eye went to black. Not one eye, but 2 eyes. She said, I had to blink and look, and her eyes were black, staring at me like I wasn't even there. She says, I got so cold, she says, I had to get up and leave that table. I said, well, you know what? You just got a good warning. She says, I never want to see that again as long as I live. And I felt like saying, why didn't you call us sooner? But
she wasn't allowed to visit either.
You know, yeah, and this woman even actually tried to come in to the hospital and visit, and they didn't let her. So this was our day. So we spent a little bit more time with family, prayed a little bit with the family, and then we finally went home. We didn't hear anything until the next morning. What was it, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, Kenny? That we got the text. His brother, wasn't his brother that texted us?
I can't remember that.
His brother and his mother, he woke up. And we're like, what? He woke up? And it's like, because that's all we got. He woke up and we're like, okay, well, he woke up, yeah.
Not in a panic or none of that stuff.
Not in a panic. He was weak, coughing. They took his tube out. And the doctor said that they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. His kidneys woke up. His lungs were starting to function. His heartbeat was back to normal. And it's like, wow, did God just do like a miracle?
I remember that case.
And it's like, I just was like...
It was, what, 2.5, 3 years ago?
Yes, it was about three and a half years ago. I was bawling my eyes and I'm like, oh my gosh. I told Ken, I said...
I remember.
Ken, this is like... This means that, you know what, God can use the worst of sinners. And you're looking right at him. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Because Ken and I have done a lot of stuff on our own before we met each other. But this was not us, this was God. Don't ever think that anybody is special or any saints.
I remember you telling me this case, and you were on it like 24/7.
Yeah, we had to be.
Yeah.
We had to be.
Just like a relative.
And it really took a toll on you two as well.
Oh gosh, we were exhausted for a week.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Just
like
tossing
I was
and
like
turning,
sleeping like 10, 12 hours. I was like, ugh.
I know. I remember it.
I like did like
That's
a
why I
marathon.
knew exactly which case you were talking about.
So that was just the beginning. He had woken up and he was asking for us. But his brother said, why don't you give him a few hours because they're going to get him off his IV drip and come and see him. So what was it? It was like day 12 we saw him in the hospital? Ken, or day 13?
I don't know it was that far away because it seems like it was quicker than I thought. Like his recovery was quick. How long he was in the hospital before it got to that? Like 2 weeks. Yes. I think about 3 days we went and visited him. They took him out of the emergency ward or whatever that. Yeah. And then he was on regular residential care. And so we went there and visited him, and we talked to him and everything. That's when he told me about that very vivid experience when he was in a coma, and then they forced him out of the coma to, I guess, check him over like we were talking about, and he accounted what he was experiencing as on the other side, so to speak.
This huge thing on top of him and just pressing on him. It was horrible.
And let's see, you know what was funny about this thing, if you call it that, was, you know what basically was the end result? And it was, he was in there for 3 weeks, I guess, total.
Yes, 3 total weeks.
Is that his legs shrunk. You know, so he had to go to like 6 weeks of therapy to get walking normal again.
Because somehow or another, believe it or not, he shrunk in size from being in a coma. That's like absolutely insane. Nobody would ever believe it. But he had to learn how to walk again. And that was the worst of what happened to him. He had to learn how to walk again.
He had to use those therapy bars where you walk on them like, you've seen them like people do when they get prosthetic legs. But he came out okay. You wouldn't know if anything was wrong with him in the long run. But I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Ken, he shrunk, but then he had to go through rehabilitation.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So that sort of sounds like a stroke in a way that can't be explained.
Yeah, because they didn't say he had that. They just said it was, I don't know.
You know what
they told us the doctors didn't tell us. We didn't talk to the doctors, but the parent and the wife and him, doctors still don't know why he ended up going to the hospital. Why did that happen? What was wrong with him?
Ever found one reason.
It's mysterious.
You know, when a doctor does not have, it could be multiple doctors, when they don't have an explanation for science, okay, we tend to look towards the paranormal side. If you can explain it scientifically, well, I'm going to look at the paranormal side of it then. That's how I feel.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that's a smart doctor, I suppose, who might actually not be an atheist. But the fact that they admitted it, I mean, that's important, because some doctors can be proud, like, I didn't go to medical school for 8 years to be called Mister. Thank you very much. That kind of attitude. Yes. But that was a little piece of information that, sometimes when you come through this stuff, you might need a few more points of faith to keep you going on. The prayers ongoing, because he prays the rosary every day with his family now. He does. And one of the last things he had to do is, what happens when you have an infestation? You run them outside. The first place you're going to see them is outside, out of the window. When you wake up, it freaks you out. You jump out of bed. Or you hear the knock on the door. You'll hear an intruder or experience an intruder thing that's not an intruder. It is. It's just a spirit. But that's how they start to come back again. Like one lady was looking out the window after being delivered, and she saw, when she looked at corner of her eye, she started seeing shadows, and they go run away and hide behind, like duck behind stuff. And both corners of her eye, and the next thing you know, it's on the inside of the house. Didn't necessarily have to knock, but it's funny the way they do this kind of symbolic stuff. And we armed him very well when we went back to counsel him again, to make sure that he could take care of the stuff himself, and he's done it. He's gone and done his yard to keep it from looking in his window, and it was stopped, and it didn't do it anymore. And his house doesn't have the activity and all this other stuff. He doesn't have oppression symptoms.
Nope.
Because he's keeping them off, and that's why we promote the haunting self-help guidebook. I mean, this haunting self-help period, right, Farah? God helps them to help themselves, and so well.
All we have to do is ask for help.
We get the prescriptions, and they follow it, and God fills them. And that's a wonderful thing to know, that you don't need to call him Mr. Demonologist Man.
No, you don't.
When jump in there and fly in place, or... Because that's not really the thing is. We're just supposed to be an instrument to lead them to the right place. Because you got to take care of your family and yourself the whole life. But, we go to the priests that, for other things. But if you really let things go like you do your diet, you need a doctor. In this case, it's a spiritual doctor. In this case, we acted as one. But we couldn't do anything unless we were in thick with God enough to be able to act as that intermediary. I don't know if I want to use the word beacon, but something that is a proximity for God to work through. And of course we say in the name of Jesus. I don't say be gone, demons, be gone, stuff like that. Say in the name of Jesus. It's always between Jesus and us and the person. There's always this intermediary there in Jesus. And the angels and saints are just the marching armies that come to surround them. Some possession people were starting to come out of their possession where they can see at the same time they were possessed, and they hear their mouth screaming obscenities and stuff, and they look around and they see Saint Gemma, the Blessed Mother, starting to appear, and then all of a sudden the angel, guardian angel, or the Archangel Michael appears, and then the demon flees. And a lot of this could be just paying the ransom. Enough sometimes prayer and enough penance and fasting needs to be done to pay the ransom to get them free, because they certainly didn't do anything in a large part of their life sometimes in other cases. But let's move to another one there and see what looks good on the next spinning wheel there. As we
have a question from
that's fine.
A very, very, very holy person that we both enjoy. And I'd like to address this before we move on. And Deb, definitely give your input if you'd like, because I love hearing from your commentary. Yes, our dear Tony Cobianco. He'd like to know, what is the main difference between witchcraft and voodoo practices, Ken? Can we tell people that real quick?
They all seem to have their own brand, but it's amazing how many brands of voodoo there are specifically for that. It's one of the things we notice when we usually hear the word voodoo, it has an origin around the vicinities of Africa. And then when it came here, they called it Santeria, because they changed some of the things that otherwise would have been done for other gods and goddesses to Catholic saints. When they were introduced to Christianity or something like that at some point. And it kind of bastardized the way we might honor and venerate. I think that's where some of the other denominations get confused about, we worship Mary. Oh, no, we don't. We honor and venerate. Big difference. As I put in one of the blog videos up, the Art of the Deals up on the channel, But the
and does that also have to do with like Louisiana and Jamaica?
Yeah, they'll say that, Mexico and then these islands, they'll be slightly different. And what's the other one? Puerto Rico. There's a slight variation, and
there
the Philippines.
Slight different. Oh my gosh, exactly. Each culture has their own version. And voodoo, I will tell you, some of the worst cases I've ever seen and ever heard of come from a form of voodoo that comes from the African continent through the Jamaican, Bahama Islands that have been practiced by the native. That is some of the worst stuff. And I think it's because the demons that they draw from, the tribes of demons are definitely from the earth, and they're ancient ones. And some of them were seen in the movie The Exorcist. They drew on some of those demons that come from the African continent.
If you watch some of these things, different biographies and all that,
but witchcraft. Okay, come on, get real. Witchcraft is what? Witchcraft is what? Witchcraft is worshiping false gods.
Devil.
Take your pick. Take your pick. Well, it's a little bit different from worshiping the devil. They may ask for conjugal visits from the devil, but they don't necessarily worship the devil. They worship lower-ranking devils.
Yeah.
Gabriel Amor said that voodoo, spirits that come from Hinduism, which is some people really need to think about everything you do, Kundalini spirit and all that stuff, and Satanism are the three worst and hardest. He mentioned something with the stuff that goes on in Italy with the evil eye. Those are the worst ones he ever had to in his entire life. He's deceased now. To deliver in exorcisms, they're so locked in, they're so evil, they're so dark that they're hard as heck to kick out. The ones that people get possessed from those type of black magic forms. And then they say it on this documentary, and there's even more of a more evil form of voodoo. This is the way these documentary scientists or historians refer to voodoo. And I don't understand why people think it's great just because you met a nice guy or a girl who practices voodoo. If it's got a dark side, that's what it is. If I kill people, on the side, just so I can watch it on the news, and then I go to church every Sunday and I pretend I'm a deliverance minister or something like that, what's really the thing that we should pay attention to? The fact that I'm a mass murderer, right? So it's another one of those things. The darkness dictates who you are and who the supposed god or goddess is. Just don't go with this dual nature stuff. It's just demons are helping you find your car keys before you go for work. Are you going to forget the fact that the fallen nature of demons, basically they're evil straight and through. If they're nice to you now, they're setting you up for something horrid. You're always going to have to pay somehow or another by someone's blood or sacrifice. Something. Off soapbox.
Well, I just want to throw out there that my husband's uncle, through marriage, is from Puerto Rico. And Zuma has never heard of voodoo practices there.
No, but like I was telling her, they do have curanderos.
Oh,
and,
yes.
She does have Santeria there and brujas. It's just different, and that's why we're saying, it might be called different names, but it's still
right.
It's still like
my husband isn't Puerto Rican, but he has Puerto Rican relatives through his aunts because they married Puerto Ricans, who are from Puerto Rico.
Yes.
So that we do have ancestry with the cousins and every aunts, uncles. Mm-hmm. So they all do have their beliefs,
And that's
so I
just
understand that.
Separating these beliefs. I think the most important thing we're looking at here, Tony, is we're looking at you have two options, and there's not always a clear, demarcated line that says, okay, this is God, but this is kind of like God. Remember when that whole thing of Day of the Dead, Santa Muerte, came up, and people are like, well, it must be okay. Everybody can have masks and skulls and stuff like that. No, Santa Muerte is not a very good practice. And there's reasons for this, and I'm not going to get into it here, but it's called borderline. It kind of looks good, but the basis of where it came from is questionable. So you really have to learn what your faith is. You have to learn what is the reason for the practices of your faith. It's important.
You ever notice how Tony has excellent questions?
Oh, he always does. Are you kidding me?
Oh, it's Tony.
Tony someday
yes, Tony
is
always
going
has
to become
good
a priest.
questions. Yes.
And that would be beautiful.
Yeah, we need more priests like Tony. We need more priests, period.
Exactly, exactly, because he always knows the right questions to ask.
Well, you know, Misty's got a follow-up to Tony's. Is Santeria like voodoo? And yes, from the Santeria I've seen practiced, it is just like voodoo. Because just like, what you have is you have a set of religious practices that they believe will give you an effect, the effect and the outcome that you want. All right? Some are darker than others. Some are nicer than others. But usually there is sacrifice. There is an altar. There are talismans or objects used to get the spirit that you want to pay attention. There is an offering or a price to be paid for something that you want. And that's basically in just about anything. You know, voodoo, santeria, curanderas. I mean, there's all... And even shamans will tell you that life is a give and take. There's a balance. God does not operate in a void, and the demons cannot operate in a void here either. They are only given enough leeway to do whatever they want, but they will exact a price from your life, your family, your friends, your neighbors, anybody that comes into your space that you affect. They can be affected.
You know what? That reminds me of something, too, about the case we just talked about, the love curse. Was earlier in his life when he was a younger man, and he had that girlfriend who put a curse on him to get him to break up with her.
Yes, remember that?
Remember he had that dream, and he got stabbed in the stomach?
Yes.
Well, they thought this had to do with stomach stuff, like poison or something that was entering through his stomach and into his blood and poisoning it. They even asked if it had something to do with how much of this, what is it, I don't know what it was. It wasn't a drug. It was like an over-the-counter thing. And was he taking too many? Well, they didn't find anything in there, but they had looked up all that stuff. And he's like addicted to Pepsi or something at the time. With that, all that caffeine or whatever he drinks all day at work and stuff like that. But here's what happens later on. And Farah talks about the tribes. That's a Farrahism because I thought that's a great way to put it. There's a lot of words for it. When demons share
that's what they look like. They look like a cockroach tribe.
There you go.
Like a bunch of little cockroaches, and they run like, you know, like birds in the air, like flying, and then they split off, and it's like... Ugh.
If you meet two dark people who basically are from the same kind of mentality, religion, philosophy, or whatever, and in other words, they attract the same kind of demons, they appease the same kind of demons. Well, here you had this gal coming in playing ghost hunter. That was the same type of spirit and the same kind of religion as this gal who put a curse, so they meet up again. So we meet again. And there he already had this thing, and it wasn't, who gave him a deliverance before that? No one, and it was 10 years ago. So the two things added up and collided. You know, if you get re-exposed to something after you've had it already, even like the cases with Deb still experiences stuff at home.
Yes.
Because once you've been exposed to it, you're going to have to keep saying stuff and doing stuff the rest of your life.
You will always be a target. You will always have that on your and that's what we explained to this man. Your family is marked. And nothing you can do. It's just like, okay, when a dog scents a bush, that's a demon scenting your house.
Yeah, all this information.
What?
It's out there.
Anybody else? Any of the other little demons that come by and smell that scent? Ooh, ooh, ooh. What can I try here? What can I push here? What can I invite here? They will always be looking for a way in. Always. Every day.
Farah, you're absolutely right. I go through this every day of my life, 24/7.
Exactly.
Now, I'm sitting, I call it my dungeon, but it's not really my dungeon. I'm sitting out in my garage, and I have French doors in my garage. I have a heater outside. I have drapes on my windows. But I have my Akita out here for protection. and she lets me and excuse me if I know she barked on a few occasions while you were talking, and I didn't hit mute fast enough. But she's my protector, and you're right. I have to be on guard 24/7. I'm here by myself more than 12 hours a day because my son works and my husband works.
Oh, you're telling that online?
Yeah, and
to bleep that out.
My closet doors fly open, lights go on and off for no reason.
Yep.
And, you know, the dog will look in a certain direction. I'll look at it too. And it's like, you have to be on guard 24/7.
Yeah.
I can't let my guard down. If I let my guard down, then all, havoc can wreak for me.
That's right.
I don't want to experience that ever again, which I still do experience phenomenal things.
Yeah.
But after a while, after so many years, after 40 years, you just say, it's like, that's a part of life,
Yeah, unfortunately.
You just do it. You just accept it. And you just go into prayer. As soon as that happens, you go into prayer right away, and you pray out loud.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, I don't pray to myself. I pray out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So, you always have to be on guard and have your guard up. You can't drop your guard. The moment you drop your guard, that's when the enemy can take you, the moment you drop your guard. So I will have to continue with this until the day I die.
Oh, you will?
Yeah, someone in the house does, and it might as well be you because you're the one who was, so important to the whole family now, and in the past with your brother. Yes. You were like his mother back then. Even though, he had a mother, but that's what a big sister you were. You really stepped it up, Deb.
And then I always have to pray for all three of my brothers every day. I pray for my brothers and their families every day.
Yeah, that's
because
good.
I know they're not going to pray for themselves.
Yeah. A lot of people don't.
I do feel like the matriarch. I actually do. I feel like the burden is placed on me.
Mm-hmm.
It has been.
Well, especially now, because everybody's deceased to the two parents.
So, you have
and I am the oldest one.
Yep.
And I'm still alive, so I feel like I have to pick up the pace and pray for everyone that's not going to pray for themselves, because I know they won't.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think, you guys, we're at the top of the hour, and we have not touched on the mental cases that we dealt with or the anxiety cases. So we may have to make that another show for January, because there's a lot that we can help you with, and understanding that, like Deb was saying, this stuff that goes on every day, it wears you down, and that's their job. They want to wear you down. So it creates anxiety, it creates depression, it creates loneliness, it creates things in your head that wouldn't normally be there. So I think this is, we're going to name it something else, but we're going to go over, some of the mental anxiety cases that we have, so you can understand these people need prayer, not misunderstanding and not judgment. We want to thank you all for joining us and let you know that battle has already been won. All right? You have nothing to fear, nothing whatsoever. Keep saying your prayers. Thank your guardian angel. And remember that we're here to help you fight the fight and win it right. And thank you, Tony, for the compliment. He said that he went to swordsofstmichael.com or .org and prayed those prayers, and they're giving him relief. So thank you.
Some simple formulas. It's amazing what
just some
is
simple
coming
things.
out of this. Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of effort. It's like when you're on a diet. Zip the lip. Oh, wow. Anti-demonics, here we come. Deb, as always, oh my gosh, you're such a wealth of information, sweetie. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. Good night, and God bless.
Fantastic. All right, folks, going to be back as usual time, and it's Sundays as always, as it is now, at 8 p.m. Central.
Walking you through Advent.
Yes, we'll do some more of these. We have this whole list on there, as you saw.
Oh my
and
gosh,
then
I know.
some.
We have so much.
A lot more.
We're gonna kind of like name it. And thank you, L&M Network, for hosting us. We love you.
Oh yeah, we got a little bit going. We're going to the bottom of the hour for that one, and but this this stream is going to end right here on the TV. So Real Deals TV, I gotta get my broadcast format together now on a scripted level so I can properly exit. Okay, all right, guys.
God bless. Good night, everyone. Sweet dreams. Mm-hmm.
The Real Deals TV show, copyright 2018, a Swords of St. Michael production. Any unauthorized duplication or rebroadcast or retransmission of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Swords of the Saint Network or that of Kenneth and Farah Deel is strictly prohibited.